Hey, everybody. It's me, Chuck, with another installment of Chuck's Captivating Chat, the November 25th, 2024 edition. Ah, just before Thanksgiving. Are you guys ready for it? Ah, I don't really have plans this year. Most of my stuff has fallen through, but that's okay. I don't mind really. I'm very good at being by myself. I'm the type of person I can actually have a party of one. I do that many times New Year's Eve because I have found from experience it's far more preferable than being out in all of the traffic and all of the crowds and paying the exorbitant prices for things you normally would be able to go to much easier. And I'd rather just be home, just get some nice hors d'oeuvres and some nice things to drink and so forth, and I'm just content. So that might be my Thanksgiving this year, and I've done it before. I'm cool with it because, I always look at it this way, it balances out. I look at all of the years where I've had incredible Thanksgivings and I've had wonderful invitations and wonderful gatherings. So it's kind of nice to have a lull here and there because it makes you appreciate those all the more when they do happen. Tentatively, I thought I might have been going down to Palm Springs to see my dear friends Stephanie and Tammy, but there's a big problem going down there this time of year. They tend to get really, really bad winds periodically during a stretch of the highway as it's going down there. And I have a little Miata convertible. And I've told this story before of the time I got caught in some desert winds, and this was when I was going out to Las Vegas one January to see a friend of mine. As kind of a spontaneous trip where I just hopped in the car and I had a tiny, tiny little rip, just tiny in the top of my car. I didn't really given that much thought to it because it's very expensive to replace a roof in a convertible. It's somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. And the reason is you don't just snap another top on. You actually have to take the frame and you have to put the fabric over it. And well, it's more than just fabric, but you know what I mean, but the material, and it has to be hand stitched around the frame, so it's incredibly laborious, and that's why I was told it costs between two and $3,000 to get a new roof. So I had been putting it off, and I just didn't think, oh, that little rip's not that big of a deal. Well, when you're going through the desert in the wintertime and the winds are like I don't know. I think it was something like 70 miles an hour or something. I could be wrong. I don't know what the figures were, but it was bad. And this little rip's just going rip, 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 rip. And then my whole roof flew off, and all that fabric was flying all over the place, and it just started tearing off. And then, boom! The roof of my car went out into the night desert somewhere in Nevada, never to be seen again. And then I had to drive for 2 more hours in the freezing cold with the wind blowing. I had my heater in my car turned up, no top of my car, like that. And there was no place to pull over or stop or anything, but I made it okay. And the good thing that came out of it was my insurance company. I had a $500 deductible, but my insurance company actually paid for a new roof on my car. So it all had a happy ending there. Hey, Ward, and hi, Joyce. Thank you so much for joining me. It always means a lot. I can always count on you guys for topics because I've been, I my one of my jobs is working for the wonderful Dr. Whimsy Anderson as her assistant, and I have to make a lot of phone calls to her clients, which are just all over the country. So I generally get a good consensus of what's going on in this nation, and not that I intend to go into politics ever again on this show, but let's just say that a lot of people are feeling frightened, disheartened. A few have used the word traumatized to describe how they're feeling right now. So, for those of you who your candidate did not win and you're feeling that way, just know that you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. I love all the little waving hands on here and the little blue hearts between, hey, Joyce and Ward. And, Joyce, I've communicated with you, we have a little plan for tomorrow night, actually. Um, we have a close mutual friend. You've met her because she's been on the show here, Anastasia Pavlov. She's been my guest several times. We've done some really far out things, including our own Oscar red carpet commentary, which got us into a little bit of trouble with some of my fine viewers who found us a little offensive. I guess we should not have been making jokes during the in memoriam segment. Yeah. There's just something about when Anastasia and I get together. I think we all have friends like that where you get a little wild, you get a little crazy with, and that can be a little dangerous when you're doing a live stream show and you tend to forget that you've got a lot of people watching and hearing what you're saying. But anyway, Joyce is going to be joining me tomorrow, along with I don't think no Pam has not joined us yet on here, but our other mutual friend Pam and her husband. And I say this because I'm pretty sure Anastasia is not watching this right now. Otherwise, she's just going to get surprised right now instead of tomorrow, which is my intention. Is her birthday was a week and a half ago, but I said, well, we didn't have time to get together, so I said, I tell you what, when the time is right, come over, I will cook you dinner. Yes, I'm gonna cook you dinner. You heard that correctly. That's a rare thing for me, but I'm gonna do that, and I'll come to that. But I thought I'd get a lot of nice little hors d'oeuvre things from Trader Joe's and get a nice bottle of wine, and I'm gonna cook dinner. And the surprise is going to be a virtual birthday party with Joyce and, oh, Whimsy, are you on here? Hey. Hi, thanks for joining. I was just talking, Whimsy, about how I was making calls for you. But anyway, we're going wait, what was that? You can buy a turkey breast to bake. It is only 2 people. Well, actually, I'm gonna come to that. I have something planned already, though. I tested it out the other night. I was telling you about it, Whimsy, but anyway, Joyce and Pam and her husband, we're going to, do a little one of those three-way things, with Zoom. And I'm going to have the laptop here in front of Anastasia and myself here on the couch as we're eating and drinking. And I told Joyce and Pam, whatever you like to drink. Joyce, I think for you it's a martini, and have your own food, and we'll just make it a virtual party. And I'm going to surprise Anastasia with it tomorrow night. But actually, um, Whimsy, what I'm doing, I told you about this the other night. Um, there's this dish that I make really well. It's thanks to the crock pot. I am helpless in the kitchen, but I know how to dump stuff into a crock pot and let it simmer for about 6 or 7 hours, and voila, here's a meal. But it's garlic and honey chicken, and I put carrots and potatoes in there and green beans, and it is delicious. It is just real comfort food, and for someone helpless in the kitchen like myself, I'm actually amazed it turns out as well as it does. But Whimsy, that's not a bad idea because I was just on here earlier saying I'm likely going to be just spending Thanksgiving by myself. So I just might get myself a turkey breast and bake it in the oven. I might ask you later. Talk to you about that. Like, give me some instructions on it. Oh, crock pot turkey is good. I thought of that. I just go online and look for a recipe there. That's a good idea. If I sound so enthusiastic about a crock pot, it's because I haven't had one for several months. My darling little Siamese cat, Sasha, knocked mine off the counter and smashed it to bits. Yeah, it was during a Mercury retrograde, oddly enough, and a lot of you may know this. Joyce, I know you know this. Today is the first day of the Mercury retrograde. Ook! I've had some really bad ones. Let's see, I'm looking at some comments here. What was that? Joyce, I was looking for a turkey hindquarter, no luck. Uh, or my crock pot turned into a crack pot. Yep. Any of you have cats, you you nothing, nothing is safe. I have Here in California, a big thing is something called earthquake putty. It's also more formally known as museum wax, where you can glue things down. Well, I've got things all throughout my apartment either glued down or I've got them tied down with nylon fishing line. Because my cat, she can get into anything. Anything. I have caught her walking across the top of my curtain rods. She has sometimes figured out how to get into upper kitchen cabinets. I know because some nights I hear crash, 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 and it's her taking her paws and throwing cans onto the floor. Someone said to me, "Well, your cat must be bored. She's looking for things to do." Yes, she's always looking for things to do. Oh, wait. Oh, it's I'm looking at this here. Add some sage garlic for spice, rosemary, garlic. Oh, God, that sounds good. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna make myself a crock pot turkey. I'm so happy with this thing. I kept intending to get a new one, and I kept putting it off, and then I realized, well, I did promise Anastasia I would make dinner for her birthday, and I thought, well, the only way this is gonna happen is either I'm gonna microwave something or I'm gonna put things in a crock pot, and so, thank goodness for Amazon. It just came to my door 2 days later. Um, what are you guys doing for your Thanksgiving? What do you have? Any of you have any good plans? Ward, Joyce, Whimsy? Oh, keep waiting for Pam to come on here to join. She's usually on here. Um, oh, you're cooking in Seattle. Good for you, Whimsy. That's right. I forget you go up there. Yeah, we Whimsy canceled our show for tomorrow, and and here's something, Whimsy, I'm going through withdrawal because I look forward to doing our Tuesday show so much, and it's our time together and with everybody else. So when I got your message yesterday, I was like, "Oh," and there's so much to talk about right now, but I just hope you have the most wonderful, wonderful time. Joyce, my 8-month-old Siamese figured out how to open the kitchen and bathroom cupboards. I put Velcro ties around the kitchen cupboards. I've had to do things like that. I've sometimes had to do that, like actually tie my kitchen cabinets, the handles, so she can't open them. In fact, the crock pot I speak of so endearingly, I have that thing tied down on the counter. So hopefully it will not suffer the same Siamese fate that it did before. Ward, you're taking mama to dinner at a local Mediterranean restaurant. That sounds wonderful. It's always great to do something unconventional for Thanksgiving. I'm usually the traditionalist about that, turkey and stuffing and cranberry and all, but I think it's some ways it's like the ultimate comfort food. I've done Thanksgiving type foods, sometimes even in the summertime. And sometimes I'm just like a little down or something. I just need something to pick me up. That will always do it. And Joyce, you're going to your son's house. You had mentioned that to me, and he's a great cook. Boy, you're lucky there. Whimsy, we could do it earlier. Well, it's up to you. I'll leave it up to you, whatever you want to do. Um, or if you wanna just enjoy yourself, or I don't know if you've left yet for Seattle or not, but, I'll tell you what, leave it up to you. I always love doing the show with you. Let's see. Whimsy, let's go live at 12. Okay, let's go live at 12. Let's do it. Let's do a show tomorrow. Yay! Okay, Whimsy. So just, send the material to me you want us to talk about tomorrow. I'll start a little earlier in the morning. When I do Whimsy's show, it's very different from this. This is very free form, very loose. Very often I go on here 5 o'clock, literally 2 minutes after I finish making calls for Whimsy's clients. And that's a great thing for me because when I started doing this like a year ago, I used to over prepare and I used to fret. I used to be so nervous and worried. Now it's like, go on in 2 minutes. Okay, let me type my stuff in here and go on, and let's just talk and see what happens. But, Whimsy, okay, we'll go on early tomorrow. Just send me stuff. I'll get up a little earlier tomorrow. Whimsy show, I was just gonna say, I have to do a little more homework and preparation for that, like look at the news and, She and Whimsy always graciously sends me, current event videos and articles and things. It's a little bit of homework, but it's good. It's very good for me because it really keeps me on my toes and immersed in the news. I know a lot of people right now are not wanting to watch the news. That's what I hear from people around the country. I don't want to watch the news right now. It's so upsetting. And, I'm kind of on the fence on that, but I also think it's very important that we stay informed, stay empowered, know what's going on. But anyway, that's another topic here. So Whimsy, we're on tomorrow at 12. Okay, okay. We're gonna do that. Let's see. And I need to get better at reading comments and doing this at the same time. But Ward, you were saying beat zillions of pots and dishes to clean afterwards. Oh my God, how I hate doing dishes. And Ward, you'll be working on Thanksgiving? Oh, I'm sorry. I've had to do that. I've had some employers who were real Scrooges about holidays. Like, yeah, you will come in on Thanksgiving. 1 year, I had to come in on Christmas. Yeah, that did, and did not get a Christmas bonus either. So that was a real Scrooge holiday, but that's in the past. Let's see. Joyce, no Trader Joe's in Cedar Rapids? Oh, I'm so sorry. I adore Trader Joe's. My sister, where she lives in Colorado, she doesn't have access to one either. And she always loves it whenever she comes out here to visit me. She has specific things she wants to pick up. And she loves that orange chicken, frozen orange chicken that you bake in the oven. And 1 year, she wanted me to get like 2 or 3 bags of that and put them in my suitcase. And I didn't have time to get to the store beforehand. I'm out to this day, I wonder what would have happened when my suitcase was going through the X-ray machine. They found all that frozen chicken in there. Never mind all the radiation it was gonna get exposed to. Probably wouldn't even have to cook it. It would just be already microwaved. But, War, you're saying no tomorrow, but I've worked every single holiday imaginable in my career. That's happened to me. I'm old enough where I can remember a time where you actually got all your holidays off with pay, and just over the years, they just slowly started taking them away, and taking them away until I'm working on Thanksgiving. I'm working on Christmas, you have to be careful how that happens, but, I don't know, I count my blessings, um, but many times holidays don't have the same meaning anymore. Let's see, Ward. Luckily, my newer department is off for weekends and holidays, unlike my former position. Well, that's good. I'm happy for you. Yeah, people should have their holidays off. Joyce, I would have to drive the freeway and go to Iowa City. Oh, that's a long way to go just to go to a Trader Joe's. Oh my God, yes, Ward. I remember that Mary Tyler Moore episode. Oh my God. I'm old enough to remember when that episode aired the very first time in prime time, but I've always loved that where Mary was all alone in the office on Christmas Eve, and she was feeling sorry for herself. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a classic. There are certain shows, um, Christmas time I love to get out to watch, and that's one of them. Uh it's something else that's fun for me. Thank goodness for YouTube. A lot of those old Christmas specials, those Christmas variety specials are on there. You can find them. That used to be such a big deal when I was a kid. I used to love that. In fact, I always loved Christmas time. I loved everything about it. I loved the Christmas specials, the music. I loved the fact we were going to get off school for about 2 or 3 weeks, putting up the tree, the decorations, the presents, and then my mother would always bake throughout the month, but Christmas pies, Christmas cookies, the house would always smell so great, and it's also one of the few times my mother was in a consistently good mood for the entire month, so that in itself was a great thing, but, yeah. I long for those things. Um, oh, speaking of which, that's another thing I can't have because of my little Siamese girl. I can't put up a Christmas tree. I haven't been able to put up one for years, and I love Christmas trees. I have a really nice artificial tree still packed away in my closet here. Really, really nice. One of those nice thin ones for a small apartment, but about 7 feet tall. And over the years, I've collected a lot of ornaments because my secret is to wait to the day after Christmas when the stores mark those things off like 60, 70%. I mean, I've got some really, really nice ornaments, things that originally must have cost like 50, $60 or more, which of course is obscene for a Christmas ornament. But when it's marked, I think in some cases 80% off, it's pretty easy to form a collection. So I have all these nice ornaments, and I always love to put up that tree every year. My last cat never bothered my tree. It was just never an issue, so I always took it for granted. Well, this little girl, from the time she was a kitten, ah! she would just attack my tree, start climbing up it, start bending down all the branches, and then during the night, I'd hear crash, crash, crash. Those wonderful ornaments of mine being crash, thrown on the floor, smashed to bits. No matter how much I wired those things on the branches, tied them down, she would still figure out a way to smash all my ornaments. And I finally just had to give up. Uh, she's not gonna let me have a Christmas tree. It's just not gonna as long as I have that cat, I'm not gonna have that tree. So it's a sacrifice I've had to make. The only thing I'm able to have is a little crappy tabletop tree. You know, those little trees you get like at CVS for like $9. That she leaves alone. Though I no, I take that back. One time I did find it on the floor and she was rolling it around. So even that. Joyce, I finally got a tree last Christmas. I wonder if Maya would leave it alone. Well, Joyce, you're going to have to let me know and let me know if there are any secrets. You know, and by the way, I know there are all these different ways to keep cats off Christmas trees. You can go online and find things like, and I've had all these things suggested to me. Well, have you tried that pet repellent spray? Yes. And she liked the smell of it. It didn't keep her off the tree one bit. Someone said, "Well, they don't like the smell of citrus, so put oranges around the tree." Oh, please. Like that was gonna stop her. I've tried tying the tree down. Short of what, putting chicken wire around the tree, I don't know anything. If any of you know of a way to keep a cat off a Christmas tree, I would love to hear it. And I once thought of this, and just to mention it, people come down on me like, "Oh, you're horrible. How could you suggest a thing like that?" But, there are these little pads that are electrified. I know that sounds awful, but it's like a mild little jolt of electricity. It's very humane, and, they're even sold in pet stores where you can put them in places where you don't want your cat or dog to be. And I thought, don't come down on me for this because I promise I would never do anything to hurt my darling little cat. But I've always thought, wouldn't it be great if they could invent a Christmas tree, an artificial Christmas tree, where the branches are just ever so slightly electrified? You know, but most people just look at me like, "Are you serious?" Like I'm some meanie or something, but I just thought it would be humane, I think, but just something that would keep the cat off the tree. But then my cat might actually like it, knowing her. Uh, um, what was that word? I guess you had to wear shoes for weeks in the house after all those smashed ornaments. Yes, I did. Oh, oh, have you ever stepped on barefoot on a broken Christmas ornament? One of those hand blown glass ones? Ouch, ouch. And that's reminding me of when I was a kid. We used to put up real trees, where you'd go to the lot and select a tree and put it up. The wonderful kinds where your house smells like pine It's just the greatest, but those things also shed. So you get all those little needles all over the floor, and, uh, no matter how much we swept and how much we vacuumed, I swear to goodness, come summertime, where you often as a kid, you walk around barefoot, I would step on pine needles. They were still around. Or maybe a barking dog alarm? That's an idea. Why am I thinking I don't know if you've ever heard that, this time of year, a lot of the radio stations, play Christmas music nonstop, and there's this one Christmas song where, I don't know how they did it, they took, different pitches of dogs barking. I don't know if they fed it into a synthesizer or something, but it was bark, 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 it's jingle bells, but barking, dog barking, that's why I'm suddenly thinking, maybe rig the tree up to play that, but then that could get really obnoxious, very obnoxious if the cat keeps jumping on the tree. And as I said, my cat's very stubborn, very defiant. She's a little Aries. And whimsy, Aries women. My cat is a very fiery Aries and very sweet, very adoring, very loving, but she also can have her wild streak in her. Um, that might not stop her when we could see. Joyce, a Snoopy tree. Oh, do you mean that by that the Charlie Brown tree? Where it's the sad little tree. It looks like a twig and it bends over with the one big red Christmas ball. I actually have one of those, and because of Sasha, I can't put that out either, because she gets to that also. My little Charlie Brown tree. Remember that? "All it needs is a little love, Charlie Brown." I always loved that, how all this pathetic little tree and all the children gathered around it and did this thing, and all of a sudden the tree was magnificent and covered with ornaments, and it was beautiful, and looked like a postcard. And I remember Saturday Night Live did a parody of that once. They actually animated it to look like a Charlie Brown special, and they did that whole thing in the beginning where the kids go around with the little twig tree and transform it, and the kids are like, "Wow, we have magic transformative powers," and they start going around town just doing this and changing things. Uh, I don't remember the specifics of it. I bet it's on YouTube. It was really funny. Joyce, one year we had a live tree and planted it outside afterwards. Well, if I had a yard, that would be a good idea, but I don't. I live in an apartment building. Um Oh, Lord, I liked how everyone one was nice to Charlie Brown for that one time. They may have been snotty before and after, but he had that one time of them being nice. Yeah, that one time. Ah, poor Charlie Brown. That strip was, autobiographical because Charlie Brown was based on Charles Schulz himself. He was a very bullied little boy, and he used all of that. And, frankly, I was a bullied little kid, and I remember Peanuts meant a lot to me because, Charlie Brown, even though it was a cartoon character, it was like I didn't feel alone. I thought, "Here's another kid going through what I'm going through," and I would imagine I was one of many, many, many other kids who felt the same way. So that was that was always very special. Or did I ever meet Mr. Schultz? No, I didn't. I didn't. I would have liked to have met him. Now, I did have a friend who met him, and I'm just telling you what my friend said. My friend said Charles Schultz was not very nice. He was a little arrogant, kind of snotty and full of himself, but that's what I was told. Now, I'd like to have formed my own opinion. It's like I told the story. I had a very good friend who was a good friend of Robert Osborne, who used to host Turner. I just heard my cat do something in the kitchen. She knocked over something. I don't know what. Don't think it's the crock pot because I would have heard a lot of broken pottery sounds. But he knew Robert Osborne very well. He used to host Turner Classic Movies, and he was very close friends with Betty Davis. And through the friend of the friend, I said, "Oh, please, 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 I'd love to meet Betty Davis. Could you set up something?" And my friend Al said, "Chuck, trust me, you don't wanna meet her. She's a mean, neurotic, crazy old lady, and you will be so disillusioned and so disappointed if you meet her." And I was like, "Well, can't I form my own opinion?" And frankly, I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have cared because I could always say I'd met Betty Davis, but that's the story there. Um, I get asked all the time because, I live here in Los Angeles, and I have met well, I once started listing all the celebrities I had met, and I went over 500. It's a lot, and, but that's no big deal because you live in Los Angeles, almost everybody has their own celebrity stories, it's very common here. For me, it was always a big deal because I came from a little town back east, um, but I was gonna say that most of the celebrities I've met, I would say 98.5% of them have been just fine, and most of them very, very nice. And rarely in that 1.5, that might be some who are maybe a little, oh, a little brusque, or maybe I got them at a bad time or something, and I get that. And I think only one time did I ever actually have a celebrity who was just really horrible to me, and I won't give her name because I wanna be respectful here, unlike her. And I will say this much, it's using the term celebrity and star loosely because frankly, she was a washed up has-been, but it was when I had first moved here, and I was working in Westwood Village, and I was working in a vitamin store at the time and, glorified retail, but that's where I was working, and I was ringing her up, and she was so mean, not just rude, she was mean. She was such a prima donna and ordering me around like I was her servant, and oh, I never forgot that. Never forgot that because it was just so unnecessarily rude. Not that any kind of rudeness is necessary, but that was really out of line. And it was funny because many, many years later, I was this was when I used to go to a lot of the Screen Actors Guild private screenings for movies, and she was in line with me. And this time she was actually kinda nice to me. I guess because I wasn't waiting on her or anything. I was just another person in line and all, and I thought, I was thinking, "Do I say something or do I keep quiet?" And I thought, "Okay, Chuck, be classy, just let it slide, don't say anything." But I would have liked to have said, "You were so mean to me when I was trying my best to help you, and I was new to the job, and you made it so unpleasant and so difficult, and it was so uncomfortable." Anyway, I didn't do that. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there, but it's just when I was asked about Charles Schultz, I guess the point is we all have our personal experiences, and for me, most of my experiences have been quite good because I believe in the golden rule. You treat another person as you want to be treated yourself. You treat a person with respect and kindness and dignity, more often than not, you will get that back, and that's what I've always found. So anyway, but no, I've never met Mr. Schultz, and I haven't met Cher. I've seen her in concert, but I've never met her, and I would love to meet her. I'm really enjoying her interviews she's doing for her autobiography right now. Um, I want to get it. Last year, the big book for me was Barbara Streisand's autobiography. That was the book I literally had waited decades for. Literally. Sure, I hadn't so much, but it sounds quite intriguing. And, speaking of Lucy, Lucille Ball, I'm sure most of you have seen the Today Show clip by now. It's become quite notorious. Cher it was a week ago, Cher was on the Today Show doing the requisite interview for her book, and Hoda Kotb said, "Oh, Cher, do tell that story of the advice Lucille Ball once gave you." And Cher was like, I can't say that on television." And Hoda said, "Oh, don't worry, Cher. We have a 7-second delay. We'll bleep it out. Go ahead and tell the story." And I hope you guys don't mind me saying the F word on here. I don't want to offend any of you fine people, but anyway, the F word did get uttered on on live television on the Today Show because Cher was telling the story of when her marriage to Sonny had just become so unbearable. She knew she had to get out, but the situation was, for any of you who remember or are aware of this, she had a very highly rated television variety show with Sonny. I mean, they were basically the Lucy and Desi of the 1970s. And it was a rare situation where you had a married couple where their professional career was so intrinsically tied in with their private lives. And the show was a major hit. And Cher was in a dilemma because she just couldn't, she knew she had to get out of the marriage with Sonny. And I've got to read the book because I forget all the specifics, but he was, and from what I understand, quite controlling. And he made some really impossible demands. And Cher said, no, no, I'm not going for that, and I think Sonny threatened her with, "Well, then we're gonna have to end our show if you do that." Well, she called his bluff and, decided she didn't, so what? So what if the show's gonna end? But nonetheless, it was a dilemma, and the only person she knew, and she knew Lucy quite well. They were actually, she had known Lucy since she was a little girl because her mother, Georgia, was a friend of Lucille Ball's. Her mother, Georgia, was on an episode of I Love Lucy. It was the Paris episode with the fashion models. And if you'll recall, Lucy and Ethel were tricked by their husbands into wearing flour sacks and waste baskets on their head and told that was the latest Parisian couture. And Cher's mother, Georgia, appeared as a fashion model. So they were friends. So anyway, Cher said she only knew of one other person in the world who was going through what she was going through. And that, of course, was her friend Lucy when, they had the number one show on television. And of course, this was after they were doing the hour-long specials, but they were still very highly rated, very adored by the public. And the marriage, for all of you who now everybody knows this, the marriage was sheer hell the last 5 years. And it reached a point where they had to break up, but it also meant dissolving their television show and a lot of their empire. So Cher called Lucy up and said, "Lucy, I need to leave Sonny, and I don't know what to do, and what do you advise?" And here's where the F word came in. According to Cher, Lucy said, "Fuck him. You have the talent. You're the one with the talent." That was Lucy's advice to her. And of course, Cher did go on and did her own variety show. It was quite successful. And this is where I really want to read the book because it was really bizarre. They went their separate ways. Sonny did his own variety show, which flopped very badly. And I don't think anyone was surprised by that. Cher did her own variety show, which did extremely well. But after about a year, that Cher realized she missed working with Sonny. And she asked him to come back and let's work together professionally. And so here they were, divorced, doing their show together again. And where it really was weird, Cher had remarried. She was now married to rock singer Greg Allman, and she was pregnant with his child. So there she was, pregnant with her new husband's child, and she's there with Sonny, and they're out there doing comedy monologues together. But somehow, some way, they made it work. But I really want to read the account of it. Um, let's see here. Let it fly. Well, oh yeah, nothing that she hadn't heard from Miss Lombard. Yes, Carol Lombard was known in Hollywood as the profane angel. It was said that she had the vocabulary of a longshoreman and a truck driver, but at the same time, she was so beautiful and so elegant, and she could just flip it off, like something in a Noel Coward comedy or something. "Hey, Pam, Hey, Jack, we are at the hotel about to go to dinner. I'm happy to see you. Well, I'm happy to see you too. Pam, I've been so busy today. I love the voice message you sent me, and I was intending to record one to send you, but I got carried away because I'm trying to get my home clean and everything and do work for Whimsy and do this show at 5. But I loved your voice message. And Joyce is on here. So I was talking earlier about how we're all going to get together and hopefully surprise Anastasia tomorrow with our virtual dinner party. I say hopefully. I don't think Anastasia is watching this right now. If you are, surprise. No, the plan is I'm pretty sure she's not watching it. So she's supposed to come over tomorrow evening, cooking my crock pot dinner, and I'm gonna have the laptop here all set up, and I'm gonna go, oh, we have some guests joining us, and flip it up. And if it all goes according to plan, it will be Pam and her husband Eric and Joyce. Surprise! Let's see if we can pull it off. Yes, Pam is going, shh. Yeah, no, I don't think she's watching this. That's why I'm not so worried about it. If she is, she'll know. Hey, Pam, I hope you and Eric are having fun. I hope you're having fun. I mean, that's such a treat for you, and I'm glad you're doing that for yourselves. I really am. Let's see, Ward, Miss Lombard knew when to be classy to fit into any church group or ladies club. Oh, there was a story. Um, there was like one of those women's clubs, uh, why am I thinking of I Love Lucy, the Wednesday afternoon fine arts league? One of those like a little women's club. And they were, or it might have even been a church group. And they were taking a tour of Paramount Studios. This was in the 1930s. And they went into the soundstage where Miss Lombard was filming, and apparently she was between scenes and she was there swearing a blue streak. And the ladies were horrified. One of the assistants went over to Carol and said, Carol, please, there are ladies present. True story. Yeah, but no, she had great class and elan, and she could pull it off. Ward, tell 20 or 30 folks a secret and 100 will find out. Yeah, that's true. No, the only reason I'm not worried is I don't think Anastasia watches this. So, and it's not, and I also look at it this way. It's not the end of the world if she were to see it right now. She'd be like, oh, that's so sweet, Chuck. I'm so excited because I know she's going to be thrilled when we do this. Yeah, Pam, we are going to have fun. Actually, Anastasia and I have talked about this for a long time. Because we love you guys, and we just thought, wouldn't it be fun just to sit here and just have a little gathering or something? But I thought, well, now's the time to do it. So Anastasia and I, we're going to have my garlic honey chicken, and I've got a cake. This one I did not make, but but it's a cake. It's a bona fide cake, and I'm gonna try to get a nice bottle of wine. And I'd say, Joyce, I believe you said you like your martinis. Pam, I don't know what you want to drink or whatever, but I thought, wouldn't it be fun? We just have our food and our drinks in front of us, and it'll be just like we're in the same room together. That's the amazing thing when actually we're going to be separated by several thousand miles in each direction. But this is the wonderful world we're living in right now. And I have to say, Joyce and Pam, because this year is coming to an end, and I typically will tart start tart start taking stock of my year. And I think one of the nicest things that happened to me this year was meeting the two of you. Truly, the nicest thing. And thank goodness for modern technology. Boy, I sound like an old fart and I say that, but really, a number of years ago, these type of friendships wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be possible for me to be doing what I'm doing right now. I remember back in the late 1990s, I went to see the spiritual writer and lecturer Marianne Williamson. And she said something that always stuck with me, and this was like 96, 97, 98, something like that, and it was when the internet was just starting to get big, and people were just starting to get their home computers and not where it was in big enough numbers, and she said, "Every one of you people out there, you have the ability to be your own broadcast station now. You can be your own television station, your own radio station, your own news service. All of you can do that now." And I thought, "Wow, that's kinda cool." Well, it's true. Now it's something we just take for granted. What's this? Wait, Joyce, eggnog spiked. That's a good idea. I think I have a bottle of eggnog somewhere. Yeah, I mean, it's vacuum sealed and everything, so don't worry, it hasn't spoiled or anything, but that's an idea. Or maybe I'll save that for Christmas. But Joyce, whatever it is you wanna drink, you do it. Let's see, Ward, you knew they were coming, so you didn't bake a cake. That's right. I can actually bake really well. I don't like cooking, as you can tell, but I once in a while I get in the mood to bake and I can do it really well. I have my late mother's cookbook with all of her handwritten recipes in it, and she had one of the best recipes for carrot cake I've ever had in my life. I mean, I think it's something like an 80-year-old recipe, and it's all in my mother's handwriting, and with all of her little abbreviations, like she mentions using a box of powdered. She doesn't give a measurement for how much powdered sugar. She says a box of powdered sugar. I had to, well, and then I went in the grocery store and I saw little boxes and I said, well, I guess that's right. So the first time I ever made this cake on my own, it was about 3 years after my mother died. And I was in Colorado with my sister and her kids, and my dad was living there at the time after my mother passed away. He went to live near my sister, and everybody was saying how much they missed mom's carrot cake. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try this. And the last time I had tried to bake a cake was 10 years earlier, and it was such a disaster. I mean, it was for a friend. I thought it'd be nice to make a birthday cake. Well, I followed the instructions. Thought, how hard can this be? The cake came out of the oven like pancake. Remember the I Love Lucy episode where Fred Mertz made a delicious 7-layer chocolate cake, and he pulls the cover up, and this is flat little thing. That's what the cake looked like. It was inedible. It was awful. It was embarrassing. So I didn't know what was going to happen because I was trying to follow my mother's handwritten recipe, but I tried it all out, followed it very, very carefully, took the layers out of the oven, let them cool, and then the cream cheese frosting that had to be made from scratch. Also, everything. It's a lot of work making a cake like that from scratch. Did it, frosted it, and everything, put it out, and then later in the evening we cut into it. I took a bite. I was stunned. I said, "This tastes just like the way mom made it." And people are looking at me, "Well, why shouldn't it?" And I was like, "Oh, you don't understand." I'm like helpless in the kitchen and I am stunned. I actually did this. I successfully made mom's carrot cake, and I've made it several times since. And I had thought about making that for tomorrow night, but I just thought, "Oh, no, no, no. I just can't. It's just too much work." My kitchen, by the time I am done, and I don't care how careful I am, my kitchen looks like Hiroshima. I have flour everywhere, sugar everywhere. I mean, oh my god, and dirty bowls and pans and spatulas in the sink, and it's just like, oh my god, no, I couldn't do that. I just, I don't have the energy for this. I'm not psychologically prepared to do this. It's going to be enough to actually make a dinner, a crock pot dinner, and have everything together and have everything nice and neat and assembled, have the home clean or as clean as I can get it, have the laptop set up here so I can lift the lid and, oh, you can go, "Surprise!" for Anastasia. The baking powder must have been bad. Well, something was bad. Something was very bad. In fact, beyond bad, that cake was possessed by demons. I don't know what I did. Oh, no, Ward, this wasn't the cake in Colorado. The carrot cake was baked in Colorado and came out perfectly. No, this was a Los Angeles cake. I just I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did. What's that, Pam? You're gonna have a grapefruit is that a grapefruit soda? A grapefruit beer? Is there such a thing? What's the Oh, yeah, and you're talking about your hotel room. If I don't like this bed, I can go home to my comfortable bed. Yeah. Well, it's nice to have options. And Ward, you were saying about staycations. I like staycations too, particularly when I was working full time. I found I just wanted to be home. I just wanted to be home with my cat and um, my movies and my music and my books and my artwork. That was all I needed. Now that I live this semi-retired life where I'm doing these different odd jobs and things, I'm home way too much. So maybe it would do me good to go somewhere. Um, what else here? Did my mom make pecan pie? Uh, you know, my mother was a superb baker. I'm sure at some time or another she made pecan pie. That doesn't stand out in my memory. If she did, it wasn't something she did often, but she certainly could have done it. Um, but oh, that's so good, and especially at Thanksgiving. Um, Beer. Oh, Pam, I was asking grapefruit beer. I've never had grapefruit beer. You'll have to tell me about that. Too bad you can't give me a taste through the video screen when we do this tomorrow night. Oh, Pam, we're going to dinner now. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Okay, Pam. I'll answer your voice message for you. But Pam, if you're still there, I'm tentatively thinking roughly around 6:30 our time. I want to be mindful of Joyce because for her it's 2 hours later. But I'm thinking tentatively that I've got to confirm with Anastasia because I'm going to see if I can get her over here like around 6 or so. Um, Okay, so anyway, Pam, thanks for joining and have a beautiful evening. Oh, I hope it's magical for you. I really do. And yeah, Pam. Well, tentatively 6:30, Pam. I'll be in touch with you. I would say that's what it's going to be, especially since Whimsy and I are going to do our show after all tomorrow. Um, is I need to do some preparation and stuff. I'm gonna have a busy day, preparing for that and then getting everything ready for the dinner, but I think that'll work out good. And that sounds good for you too, Joyce? Great. The rest of you here, you're in on our private little conversation here. But isn't this kind of fun? That's kind of what makes this like a little family gathering here. Because all of you who have come to join me every week. I'm really appreciative. And I love that I can count on you to be here. And it's one of the reasons I don't do so much preparation anymore before the show because I know you guys are always going to have topics and questions and things to bring up. And it's fun just to see where the show is going to go in what directions. You know, I God, I always write things down in case I do get lost, in case I run out of things to talk about or something. Um, but I'm fine. I've got a stockpile of these notebook pages of things I've never even gotten around to. Maybe these are things I'll make videos for when I finally get around to doing it again. But but see, I mentioned it's the start of the Mercury retrograde. Uh, Joyce, I'm going to be very anxious to get some advice from you there. Joyce is a gifted astrologer. And plus, you and I just need to have a nice one-on-one talk too. And hopefully we'll do that soon. I'd love to do that this week, but I know you've got a lot on your plate, your Thanksgiving dinner plate, and you're going to be with your son and everything. But let's see here. I was going to mention some things like I'm working on portraits right now. I was looking to see if my friend Kathy is on here. I don't think she's joined, but um, doing a portrait of her grandchildren that she's gonna give as a Christmas present, and I'm almost finished with that, and, um, I'm hoping I'll get a few more people who, have commissions for me, for holidays. I'm gonna try. I know time is running out, Christmas is a month away, so I can't accept too many, but they do make nice Christmas presents. Anybody wants an original portrait. And, let's see what else I was gonna mention here. I originally had some stuff on here because it is Thanksgiving, and I thought, "Well, what could I talk about today?" Yeah, Lord, it is because I put a lot of love into my portraits, and, I always treat it as a sacred responsibility when somebody asks me to do a family portrait for them. Um, I know it's gonna mean something to them, so I put my heart into it. I always do my best. Um I was gonna mention my good friend Rosalia Scalia in Baltimore. I wish she were watching here right now. She's going to, be coming out here to visit. She's not visiting me specifically, but she's gonna be coming out to LA, next March, and we're gonna get together for a night. But I did a portrait for her of her mother, and I could actually hear her mother speak to me while I was doing it because, when I do a portrait, I really get into the soul of the person and get into their energy because that's how I get that look in their eyes. And let's see, Joyce, what do I need to do one? Just a photo? Yeah, that's all I do. I work from photos. That's my favorite way to work. I don't like working from live models because I tend to be very slow and methodical. And a photo is perfect because I can just sit with that at my leisure whenever I want. If it's sometimes 1 in the morning, I'll be working on a piece of art or something, but I've got a photo, and that's what I work from. Um, no, she's not in this world anymore. No, in fact, she passed away from COVID, and, that's why she wanted a portrait, and anyway, Rosalie and I became good friends. Rosalie, I was just gonna say, is a gifted, gifted writer. She has a book, called, Stumbling Toward Grace, and I wish I had a copy of it here in front of me to hold up so I could give her a proper plug, but she's a marvelous, marvelous writer, and Stumbling Toward Grace is a collection of short stories that she wrote. I think you can find it on Amazon. Um, but, anyway, I guess before I go, I should tell something in relation to Thanksgiving, and, I was trying to think, well, since we're running out of time here, I don't know if I'll go into the Lucy and Desi story again. I've told that enough times about how, um, they had all these when they had a 5-acre, what they called a ranch. It wasn't really that, and it wasn't really a farm, but that's what they kind of considered it, and they had a dairy cow, and they had chickens, and the thing was, Lucy ended up making pets out of all of them. I told the story about their cow, the Duchess of Devonshire, who had a mad crush on Desi, and one night broke through the window of their bedroom to come up to Desi and start licking his face, and the chickens never got slaughtered, and it was said the joke was the chickens were so old, they were hobbling around on crutches and little wheelchairs, and, one year, Desi wanted to being the Cuban, he wanted to roast a pig for Christmas, so they got a pig, and they fattened it up and got it ready, and then when it was time to slaughter the pig, Lucy was like, "No! No! No!" and Desi had to concede. They couldn't kill the pig. They loved the pig so much, so the pig ended up becoming a pet instead of a Thanksgiving dinner. Um, but I was trying to think of what would be a story to talk about, and I guess I should tell it now because this week is Thanksgiving. It was back in 2008. I saw Joan Rivers do her autobiographical play. It wasn't really a one-woman show because she had some other actors on stage with her, but what was interesting about this was it was a hybrid of her stand-up comedy and Joan telling her life story. and the good, the bad, the tragic, like talking about what happened with Johnny Carson and so forth, Edgar's suicide, which was a really poignant moment. It was quite something, because most of the show you were laughing hysterically, and then she'd get to some parts like that where she'd be making you cry. And she did the show in London, and she did it in Los Angeles. Those were the only 2 cities she did the show. She was supposed to take it to Broadway, and she got cold feet because she was so scared of being savaged by the New York critics. And I think that was such a loss, because it was a marvelous show, and I wish to goodness the show had been video recorded. Um, but she told something I did not know. Joan Rivers had a friendship with Mae West, and she was talking about Mae. Mae was a dear, dear lady, but she was also an egomaniac. Very much, everything always had to be about Mae. Mae was the type of person, if she would go to somebody's home, uh, at a dinner party, the lights had to be adjusted so they would hit her just right, and they'd have to be soft enough not to show her lines and wrinkles and that type of thing. She was very high maintenance. And yeah, Joan Rivers with Mae West. And Joan was telling the story. Mae had a reputation for being so difficult in that respect. She was not a bad person. She was a very good person, but she was very much a prima donna, very demanding, that nobody wanted to deal with her. After she got older, it's like nobody wanted to be bothered with her. And they had a mutual friend, Roddy McDowall. Seems like Roddy McDowall was friends with all the women in Hollywood. But anyway, uh, it was the day before Thanksgiving. Joan used to put on people don't know, a lot of people don't know that Joan Rivers in real life was a very elegant woman, very classy, and she loved to throw a beautiful formal Thanksgiving dinner for, I think, something like 50 invited guests. She'd have big, long dining room table and beautiful centerpieces and candles. And I think she hired butlers to serve, and it was all extremely formal, very formal and very beautiful. And I think she even had someone playing violin, that type of thing. And Roddy McDowall called her up the day before Thanksgiving, and he was in a panic. He said, "Joan," and this was when Mae was in her 80s. It was near the end of her life. And he said, "Joan, Mae's all alone for Thanksgiving. Nobody wants her. She has no invitations." And he was saying, "Please, I beg you, please, can she come to your place for Thanksgiving dinner? She has nowhere to go." And this is where Joan got serious, and she said to the audience, I c I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, because I had something like 50 guests. I had family, and I had friends, and I had this all planned out, and I knew how difficult Mae West was gonna be with her demands for the lighting and special foods and all that. And she said, "Roddy, I can't. Any other time, but please not now. I can't do this." And so, yeah. Yeah, well, that's right. Mae West was alone on Thanksgiving. Nobody wanted to deal with her because she was so demanding and so difficult. And then Joan told another part to the story. She said that when Mae West died, she and Roddy McDowall went to the funeral together. Only 6 people were in attendance. 6 people at Mae West's funeral. So, I mean, it was just so interesting that she had so few friends, and I guess it was just because of how demanding and difficult she was. But, I have a friend who visited Mae West once, and Lord, I didn't know that. That sounds like Princess Margaret's service. I don't know the story there. Please tell me. That's kinda sad. But and Joyce, I bet you still do a killer impersonation of Mae West. You'll have to do that for us tomorrow night. Oh, come on. I love Mae. But, anyway, I had a friend. This was back in 1971. He was 17 years old at the time, and I forget what kind of connection he had, but he and his brother and their mother went to visit Mae West at her apartment at the Ravenswood building here in Hollywood in the Hancock Park district. In fact, one of my videos, I remember what date it is, my backlog of videos, I'm standing in front of the Ravenswood and I tell some Mae West stories. But they went to visit her and he said she was wonderful. He said very down to earth, no pretense, just warm and kind and folksy and funny. And I think he said he asked if he could take a picture with her. This, of course, back in the days, the little Kodak film cameras. He wanted to take a picture. And he said May was very gracious, but she said, I'm so sorry, but no. And please understand, in my business, my face is my fortune. And I can't afford to have a bad picture taken of me and have that get out and circulate. So please understand. But then she said, but please feel free, walk around my home, take all the pictures you want. It's perfectly okay. Do that. And so anyway, that's another side of it. Even Joan Rivers said she adored Joan Rivers said she adored Mae West. It wasn't she was a bad person. She just made too many demands on people, and I guess she drove people away. Hence 6 people at her funeral and being alone on Thanksgiving in her 80s. Oh, I didn't know that. Very few people went to Princess Anne's funeral. I mean, Princess Margaret's funeral. That's so sad. I'll have to read more about that. Um, did they depict that on The Crown? You know, I I have there's one last season of The Crown. I think it's 6 seasons, and I only got about halfway through it. I have not finished the final episodes. So I don't know what's I mean, it's not like it's spoiling any of the story because it's based on historical fact. If anyone tells me what happens, like, guess what? Queen Elizabeth dies, that type of thing. But I love The Crown. Well, I thought the first 2 years were the best when it was Queen Elizabeth as a young woman. Um, but then I enjoyed come to think of it, I did like the middle age years too with Olivia Colman. But the last 2 seasons, the Imelda Staunton, and she's a wonderful actress, but for some reason that it just hasn't done it for me. That's why I never got around to watching the last episodes. Let's see. I'm not sure, but they did show how crippled and alone Princess Margaret wound up in the end. Yeah, that sounds a little like Mae West toward the end. And, and I've told my Judy Garland stories on here in the past. I've told the story of how I knew somebody who had Judy Garland as a house guest it was for 3 months, and it was during the last year of her life. It was, like, shortly before she left for London and married Mickey Deans, and, of course, she died there. But, when she was staying with my friend, he said that she was like a pariah. Nobody wanted anything to do with her. All of her friends had basically abandoned her. Judy could be very high maintenance and demanding also, and she fell on very hard times. Got in a lot of trouble with the IRS to where the IRS she would do a concert and the IRS would just seize all of her earnings, where she wouldn't even make a cent. And at one point, she couldn't pay her hotel bill, and the hotel locked her room up, seized all of her possessions, and among those possessions was a trunk with all of her musical arrangements, all of her orchestrations, and then all of her costumes. All that was seized. So that made it even harder for her to perform anywhere. So she could barely earn a living. And my friend, his name was Charles Williamson, and this is documented. This was in Gerald Frank's book, Judy. He was interviewed for that. It's all documented in there, what he told me. And I was in his home. He showed me where Judy stayed, the guest room, and so forth. And I've told that story where Judy stood at the top of the staircase, put the Carnegie Hall album on, and did a full concert for Charles and his partner as they sat on the couch. Full concert, like she was playing to 300,000 people. It was just amazing. Um, but yeah, Judy was just destitute. Charles said that all she had, and he swears this is true, all she had to her name was a shopping bag with 2 blouses and 2 skirts. That was it. That was her luggage when she arrived, and she ended up staying for 3 months, but she had, for quite a while, been sleeping on people's couches. She was homeless. Now, some have said, "Well, where was Liza in all this and all that?" Well, the children, her 2 youngest were, of course, with their father, Sid Luft, but Liza, I don't know what the story is. My suspicion, Liza was married to Peter Allen at the time. They were newlyweds. I just have a hunch Judy didn't want to tell Liza how bad it was. She didn't want to be a burden to her daughter. That's what I am suspecting. Because many times when I've told the story, people say, well, why didn't Liza come in and help her mother? I don't know. I know that Liza's working on her autobiography right now. So maybe some of these things will be answered. I don't know how aware she was. I do know that, Judy died about $4 million in debt, and Liza spent several years paying off her mother's debts personally. She wanted to clear her mother's name, which was really a beautiful thing, but might have meant more. She'd been around while her mother was still living, but hopefully we'll get the answers there. I don't want to be judgmental on that. Yeah, Ward, that London move was a disaster. If you're thinking of the Renee Zellweger movie, they did fictionalize quite a bit of it, but there's enough elements of truth in that. Um, I even asked Charles Williamson about Mickey Deans, her husband, and did not like him. Again, this is just what Charles said to me. He said, "Oh, Mickey Deans was nothing but her drug dealer. That's all he was, her drug dealer." But I think Judy was just she was a point of desperation. At that point in her life, the drug addiction, the IRS taking away everything she made, all her possessions were seized. She was sleeping in guest rooms and on couches, and she had an offer to perform in London. And I'd have to look up the details on that, how she got around the IRS with that. I remember there was a scene in the Renee Zellweger movie, if you recall, at the beginning, where a man hands her an envelope with cash in it. He said, "Now, Miss Garland, I know this is what you're not used to making." And she said, "Oh, no, no, I'm very appreciative of it." So maybe she had a cash deal or something to get around the IRS. I don't know. But she married Mickey Deans, and she was dead about 6 months later. Poor Judy, 47 years old. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. God, I'm getting some ideas for some videos here I could do for the show, like Marlene Dietrich. I knew that she was living in an apartment in Paris. I've told the story of how I got her address because I had heard she always signed her own autographs, and I sent her a beautiful photograph. And I sent her a return envelope with return postage and everything. I didn't get it back for 8 months, but it came back signed in beautiful gold marker, and I've got the room. I've got it beautifully framed, and I treasure it. But, when I heard Marlena was living in an apartment in Paris, I just assumed she was in retirement and she was living in luxury. But according to her daughter, who wrote a book about her mother, and I liked the book. It wasn't like Mommy Dearest or, like what Joan Crawford's daughter did or what Betty Davis's daughter did. I thought this was more of a tribute to her mother, but she said toward the end, her mother was living in a tiny little one-bedroom apartment, and there was just garbage everywhere, trash. Uh, she didn't care about her appearance anymore. She wasn't doing her hair or anything, and wearing a bathrobe and just living like an old lady in squalor. And so it's so interesting. These these big, big stars, no matter how big, some of them, they had some sad final years, very humbling years. So anyway, I just saw that about Marlene Dietrich, and I should look at my comments here. Well, Ward, you have the comment, Miss Garland was a much better mother than her own was to her. Well, Judy, this is according to her three children. Judy was an excellent mother. Lorna, her daughter Lorna, wrote a book that was the basis for the movie that Judy Davis starred in. That wonderful, wonderful made for television movie. I think it was called Me and My Shadows. And she wrote a book detailing it. And she said, the thing about my mother, when she was just home and she didn't have her makeup on, she was just fine. She was just a regular mom. But when she was in performance mode, that's where she got in trouble. That's what Lorna meant. When my mother was home, didn't have her makeup on or anything, she was just fine. But all three speak very warmly of Judy. But I just wanted to address one thing there. Her mother, in almost all the biographies, gets vilified, like the quintessential evil stage mother, almost like Mama Rose and Gypsy or something like that, maniacal, over the top stage mother who couldn't be a star in her own right. So she was determined to make her child a star and was going to push her and push her and push her. But I've heard stories and read accounts that Judy liked to embellish. Some have been less than polite and called her a pathological liar, but she loved to just embellish her stories and make them very dramatic and very over the top. And some have felt that her mother was not nearly as evil and as bad as Judy played her out to be, but that became the legend. And I always believe in 50-50 accountability. So I've always suspected there was more to the story, but I don't know. This is again, Liza Minnelli's got an autobiography she's working on. I really hope she addresses things like that and takes a lot of these long-standing myths and rumors and what have yous and puts them to bed and said, look, this is what actually happened. Because Liza certainly knew her grandmother. I think Judy's mother died in 1953. So Liza's born in 46. So she definitely would have known her grandmother. So I'd just like to hear her account of that. Yeah, Joyce, I've seen that photo. Oh my God, it's heartbreaking. Judy, her legs were like matchsticks. Judy was so frail and emaciated at that point. And I've never felt that Judy committed suicide. I've never felt that. I just think what happened, from what I've read, and her tragic drug addictions and alcohol addictions. And got to remember, back in the late 50s, because of her alcoholism, she almost died of serious hepatitis. They had to drain something like 20 quarts of fluid out of her body because of her liver shutting down. And they told her then, she was only in her late 30s then, they said, Miss Garland, you're going to be an invalid for the rest of your life. And she came back. But I think it was just all of the turmoil, the stress, the drugs, the alcohol, what have you. She was so thin and frail. And I believe her body just gave out. Her heart couldn't take that anymore. And, she was found dead. And talk about a tragic way of dying. She was found dead sitting on her toilet. That's how she was found dead. But the great thing, I even hate bringing this stuff up now because I think the great thing is there's so much about Judy that's joyous and happy and magnificent. And that's thankfully what most of us focus on now. At least I hope so. That's the thing. But yeah. And Ward, you point that out about Zsa Zsa Gabor. Yes, that's another very sad story. Very sad story. She was doing great until I think, was she in her late 70s, early 80s? She went to get her hair done, and her hairdresser gave her a ride home. They were driving down Sunset Boulevard, and another car crashed into them. It was a horrific car accident, and Zsa Zsa had broken bones all throughout her body, her arms, I think her legs, her pelvis. Uh, it left her an invalid for whatever years she had left, and then her health started to seriously decline. She had to have one of her legs amputated. She lived to be, I think she was just shy, like 2, 3 weeks, something like that, shy of her 100th birthday. It was like Betty White. Betty White died 2 weeks before her 100th birthday. Um, but yeah, oh yeah, hey, you're all giving me some ideas for some videos. These won't be some of the happier videos I've done, but I think it's still interesting. And sadly, she outlived her. Oh, but Zsa Zsa, she outlived her entire family, including her only child, her daughter. That is true. And I understand that she and her husband became so financially destitute. Now, a lot of that was because they lived way beyond their means. They lived a grand, grand lifestyle for a long, long time. Well, it finally caught up with them, especially with Zsa Zsa no longer able to go out and do the talk shows and the appearances and earn a living and whatever else she did. And they had a mansion. They had to sell the mansion on the condition that they could keep 2 rooms on the first floor for Zsa Zsa to live out the rest of her life. And then it would all go to the new owner, but that was the condition of the sale of the house, so they basically lost their home except for 2 rooms. Yes, Ward and her husband, the less said, the better. The prince, yeah, I understand he bought that title or something. He quite a character. Oh my god. Yeah, I could go into that, but as you said, the less said about him, the better. Uh, I think he's still around. I'm not sure. Maybe he did pass away. Uh, anyway, the show took a different direction than I thought it would, but hey, it is what it's meant to be, and this is a topic, as you know, I love to talk about, and this is, until I get back to doing videos again for this channel, this show is the one thing I'm doing because my life's just too busy with other projects right now, and I just needed to kind of take a break from it. But I love keeping this appointed time every Monday, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, or whatever time zone you're in, and be here with my friends and talk. And I love hearing from you. And I thank you so much. And I guess before I go, did anybody else have something to say? Any comment or question or anything? Um, yeah, Joyce, so many re-memories. Yeah. I have to be so careful because like before I went on today, I was thinking, what am I going to talk about today? And I thought, I almost need to watch the replay of last week's show to see, did I talk about this or not? Sometimes I lose track. I should probably keep a notebook of everything I talk about. And I hope you forgive me if I do repeat things, or at least hopefully I put a new spin on things. How's that? But it's almost 6:30 here. Yes, as in Mercury retrograde. Oh my God, Joyce, it's only the first day. Oh, Wendy, thank you. Thank you for a lovely time. Thank you for joining me. Oh, Joyce, I want to hear more about the Mercury retrograde and how it's going to affect me. I've had, I've had some bad ones and some that are okay. And then I get some where it seems like everything's going okay. I guess this isn't going to be so bad. And then wham, something happens. It always does. I was telling the story earlier about my crock pot in the kitchen. That's the least of it. Once my big 65-inch television, I had to lift it up for some reason. Why did I need to lift it up? It was cleaning under it or something. Broke the whole stand off of it that was screwed into it. The base, whole thing just broke off. And the TV, of course, would not stand. So I had a television that I had to lean at an angle on my table because it wouldn't stand up. And I called the shop the next day to see what it would take to get a replacement. Oh, we're so sorry, sir, but the model of your television has been discontinued. We don't make that anymore." I was like, "But it's only 2 years old. What do you mean discontinued?" But that's what I was told. So it took me a long time to find a stand for that TV. That was one of my Mercury retrograde experiences. But anyway, enough of that. Thank you all for joining me. Oh, Joan, hi. Thank you for joining. Join your first time here. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, please join me more often. And I'm glad you liked what you saw. And I hope you like old Hollywood stories because that's what I specialize in. And tell a lot of Lucy stories. I love Lucy. So please, please come back again. So, anyway, thank you all for being here. And happy Thanksgiving. And Joyce, I'll see you tomorrow. And I'm going to say goodnight for now.